Hey, my name's Andy Dixon, and I'm a Canadian painter living in Los Angeles, and this is my studio.
So tell me about the show you're working on.
The show I'm working on is a new body of work for the gallery The Whole. I'm showing at their Bowery location next month. I'm really excited about, it's kind of a different take on kind of a similar thing I've already been doing. What I used to do is, or have done in the past, are sort of like appropriative painting. So essentially a reproduction in a way of pre-existing things. So it'll either be a painting of a painting or a sculpture of a shirt, of a real shirt. But these are kind of my first pieces that are my own true compositions. They're pieced together from various components from art history, sort of like tropey things like lobsters and fruit and statues and frolicking bacchanalia type stuff. But instead of just sort of reproducing a pre-existing painting, I'm taking and collaging the elements together and creating my own sort of personal compositions and personal narratives out of them.
How did you originally come to this style?
Style came kind of slowly and kind of organically. I feel like it's just been a steady accumulation of inspiration. It's almost like one little stylistic choice at a time over 15 years, and it just kind of becomes a style, if that makes sense.
Besides sort of the content of your paintings, the color choices are so unique and really like, I see anything by you and I immediately recognize it. Can you talk about those?
To be honest, I'm not like a natural born painter. I'm not really a natural born almost anything, but except for some reason color. It's just a thing that I've always been interested in. I remember even as a kid just being obsessed with color combinations, like different like socks, bright colors with different color pants, with shoes. I don't know what it is. I've just been like completely enamored and stimulated by color and the way that like one color sets off another one. You put like a deep red beside a turquoise and I'm just like, oh my God, that is so sick. It's just inherent in me or something, I'm not sure. So again, that's just another sort of slow accumulation of these certain color combinations that I really enjoy and I just keep using over and over. In fact, I actually only use about 20 colors or so in my paintings, so they're always the same palette.
Take us back to sort of when you did first start painting.
I don't know where the line was between just kind of doing it for fun. I was definitely a kid that loved like drawing little comic books and stuff. But I actually got more into music in my earlier age. I started playing guitar at like 10 and I was in this like funny punk band that kind of got weirdly famous in Canada. So I had this weird teenage other life where I was sort of in a touring kind of pseudo-famous Canadian punk band. We toured the world and toured with like some pretty huge bands and stuff. But all the while I was making music with the band, I was also the one making the album covers, t-shirts, stickers. So I was drawing the whole time and accumulating kind of my own style from a very early age that kind of became the sort of style of the band. And then other bands wanted me to, they're like, oh, I love your t-shirts, I'd love you to do a t-shirt. And then I was kind of just like on an art career by accident. And then fast forward into my 20s where I was more into experimental music stuff. You could, there was like an overlap of people who were into the kind of weirdo music scene that were also into like weirdo art scene that were then like, oh, play this noise show at my gallery, but also it's like a DIY gallery, you should put up a painting in it. And so it all happened very, very, very organically, and there was no moment where I was like, I'm gonna be an artist. It was more like, I'm gonna be a musician that makes art sometimes. And then I realized I was a better artist than a musician eventually. It only took me till about 30 to realize that. And then everything kind of switched and I concentrated only on art around then. So maybe like 15 years ago or something.
So you have some pretty cool collabs. Do you mind if we kind of walk around the studio and show off maybe some of the shirts?
So the shirts, most of these were done for a show in Los Angeles. Not all of them, but I mean reproduction is the wrong word because you can't exactly wear them, but they're kind of like, these are real garments. So I have to buy the original garment, take it apart piece by piece. So every single piece is correct. You got the pocket, I don't know, I think it's called a placket. And if you rolled up like this sleeve, you would have the pattern inside. If you pop that collar, you would have it. It's all as accurate as possible based on the original garment. So just take it take it apart piece by piece, pattern it up at a much larger size, then I copy each piece, and then sew it together.
Are these specific brands that you've worked with?
No, not necessarily. I'm drawn to garments where basically the designer has done the same thing that I have. So what I do is I like to pluck things from art history and put them together in new forms. And so did Jeremy Scott with this Moschino thing. So it's kind of like I'm showing how art historical images are used today to depict different things.
Have your designs been used on a shirt?
So yes, they have. Believe it or not, Versace contacted me to do an installation in Gianni's old apartment in Milan. It was just the most insane opportunity. And I shit you not, this is very hard to believe. I almost don't believe it myself, but I was making the first Versace shirt. It wasn't the Miami one. It sold actually, but I was already making one of these. I was making the sculpture of that. When they contacted me, they had no idea. And they were like, oh, can you do an installation? And I'm like, you're not gonna fucking believe it, but I have like a 15-foot Versace shirt in my studio right now. And they were like, no way. You know, I took a picture to prove it. It was the weirdest serendipitous moment. So we hung that shirt in Gianni's old apartment, which was just insane. And then that turned into an actual collaboration, where then we took one of their heritage patterns, their fabrics, and I made one of these, I made it as a painting, and then we shrunk it back down to a shirt. So it was like a copy of a copy. So it was like my version of one of their shirts shrunk back down into a wearable shirt. I did a few other things with them as well for the spring, summer 2020 show. Before that, I had done the series of paintings where I had painted paintings of shirts rather than a sculpture of a shirt. Like it was just on a canvas, it was a shirt. And I'd done a Versace shirt maybe once, and that's what led them to me. And then they were like, yeah, let's collab. And I'm like, dude, I can't believe it. Like, I can't believe I have a 20-foot shirt in my studio right now. Yeah, and then that led into a full collaboration. It like walked the runway. I mean, it was super exciting.